ask you, after your last fight,
Yeah.
there was a lot of emotion, right? I mean, there's obviously always emotion after a fight, but it just seemed like especially intense. What was going through your head at that point that you had that outburst?
You know, I had some people online like kind of like, you know, trolling me and like saying things. I was a big underdog, you know, and I got hurt my last sparring session, so I had a perfect camp. Like, it was amazing. And then to get hurt on my last sparring session, I was crushed, you know. I couldn't even sleep that night. My leg hurt so bad. I couldn't really walk for 2 days, and I was in here getting worked on, and it was a lot not being able to finish that last hard week. But my coaches were just like reassuring me, like, you've looked amazing. Like, if you don't even throw a punch or run or do anything for the next 2 weeks, like, we have no doubt that you will go out there and kill this girl. And so I just believed in them. I believed in my coaches. I had a lot of nerves that day too, so I think that kind of played into it. My last 2 fights before that, no nerves, really excited to go out there and perform, and then I just like was all over the place that day, and I don't know if that like helped me perform even better or what the case was, but it was just that, you know, that quick win. I believed in myself, and I like truly like felt that submission, I knew I was going to get a rear naked choke. Like, I knew from the moment that fight got called, like I was like, I'm going to get this choke. Like, I was like, I'm going to get one, like a submission. And I even thought for a second that I might set a record, but I was like, okay, calm down, Emily, you know. And then like when it all happened, it was just like, it was such a surreal moment, you know. It was like, it didn't even feel real for like 2 weeks after.
So I wonder what it's been like since, because I mean, you're still real early in your career, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you're having to learn the sport in the UFC. Getting 2 wins in a row under your belt, I mean, does that transform things a little bit in terms of confidence and feel?
Well, I'm new in the sport, I guess, according to my record. So I don't think people realize I had 10 amateur fights. So I've been fighting since I was 18. It's about 10 years now. And so I did have a lot of experience. I was a main event at a casino. I, you know, had some bigger fights, you know, in the Pacific Northwest that like had that like kind of spotlight and like that pressure a little bit. My 2 training partners were champions, and so like it was kind of like a lot was expected of me, and I went on like a 3-fight losing streak, moved here, picked that back up, and like so I've been somebody that's always kind of like won, lost, and I kind of keep going back and forth. But I really feel like in this last couple years, like really since after The Ultimate Fighter, I've really found my place, and I've really like just kind of came into like who I am. Everything's clicking at the gym, and I think that's something like a lot of people don't give time. Like, they'll be at a gym for a little bit of time, and like they may go on a 2-fight losing streak or have a couple rough patches, and they don't really like give the process the time it deserves. And I feel like that's what I've been doing here. I don't go do things. I don't go out. I work really hard. I kept a serving job. Like, I've literally had my nose to the grindstone these last 5 years, and I really feel like it's finally paying off. Like, this is what I'm meant to do. This is why I'm here. I'm somebody that even in those like hard spots when I've lost and I've been down and I've been like really mean to myself, and like I still knew, I was like, no, this isn't it. Like, I always pushed on, and I feel like that's what makes a champion.
No doubt. I know you're not exactly in a position in your career to be, calling for certain matchups or whatever. When they put this one together, what was your thought of the fight itself?
I thought it made sense. I mean, I'm one of the smaller records on. I think I may have the smallest record on the strawweight roster. So I think, I mean, who else is a debuter going to fight? I'm the girl that, Albu hasn't fought in 2 years. Of course, give her to Emily. Jamie didn't fight for a while. Give her to Emily. Amanda got signed 2 years ago or 3 years ago or whatever it is, hasn't fought since then. Give her to Emily. So I think all these decisions make sense. I think they're fair matchups. I think the UFC's, I think Mick's doing a good job with me. I don't think I've been treated unfair at all. And so I think after this fight and, maybe another one, maybe they'll give me somebody with a number next to their name. But I think they're taking their time, and I think that Mick's doing a really good job.
Does their history with USADA bother you?
I think USADA's kind of a little weird, I think after like the whole John Jones things, I don't think anybody really knows how to take that. And so I know what she was popped for was found in supplements that Sean and Nico and like people I know personally that got in trouble for it. So no, I don't really think anything too far into it. I don't necessarily think she's a cheater or anything. I did see a picture on her Instagram where she had like a bunch of like random supplements in front of her, and like, so I'm like, you're kind of playing with fire at that point. Like, I'm really holistic and like picky about what I put into my body, and so I mean, other than cannabis, that's the only thing I really have to worry about. So I think other people need to be more picky about that kind of stuff. You can't just go into a trade show and just start drinking weird stuff. You can't just take whatever supplement sponsor hits you up on Instagram and take it. I mean, there is a protocol, and USADA is constantly sending things out saying, hey guys, like, be careful with this stuff. And not enough people are giving it that respect. They're just like, oh, this says I'm going to train harder and feel better, so I'm going to take it, and not realizing that sometimes those things that make you train harder and feel better actually are illegal.
What do you know about her style?
I watched her fights. I think she's pretty well rounded. I saw her striking, I saw her grappling, I saw her wrestling a little bit. So I think she trains everything. I think it's going to be a good fight. It's hard to go off of, she hasn't fought for 3 years, so it's like I'm not watching those fights expecting to come out and see that fighter. So that's one thing. It's like you watch, you kind of see a few things, but there's not really, you can't take away anything from a fight that's 3 years old, So I'm kind of going into blind spot, and I think that's kind of exciting.
Do you approach it differently if somebody hasn't fought in that long, where you say either maybe they're hesitant at start or they come out like way too aggressive at the start? Like, do you try to manage how that's going to go?
I think anytime the fight starts, I like when the fight starts fast. Anytime it's like kind of like dragging on, I'm not a big fan of that. Like, I want to go out there and get it going. So I think she likes to go out there and get it going too. So it'll be interesting to see if they kind of try and take their time with me, because they know I like to start fast. So I think I'll go out there and kind of gauge, but if she pulls the trigger, I'm right there behind her.
Why she needs to be worried about you inside the octagon?
Why shouldn't she be? I've been fighting for, quite a while. I have been consistent. I, fought on The Ultimate Fighter, had that quick turnaround, fought again. I've been pretty active these last 2 years. So for somebody that hasn't fought for a while and is fighting somebody that's really kind of catching a stride, I think she should be a little bit worried. I'm coming off a big submission, and if she thinks she's going to, people may have thought that was my weakness before, so maybe thinking, oh, I should take this girl down and that's going to be a weakness. And it's like, well, probably not now, So I think things are going to start changing.
Are you having any visions for this one? Is there any move? Is there any records? What's the projection here?
Another record would obviously be nice. I want to beat my own record. I don't know if this is the fight to do that. I have a submission. I have 2 other submissions that I've gotten in 40 seconds. So one as an amateur, one in the Tough House. So it's possible. So definitely another record. But I do see a 3-round war. I always go into every fight expecting a 3-round war. If it doesn't pan out to be a 3-round war, great. And that's kind of what I think those emotions that you see, from fighters, because we always go into expecting that. And then when you get those big finishes, it's like, it's like it's no feeling, like you can't even explain it.
From your fight with Jillian a couple of years ago to your 2 fights that you've won, especially the submission victory in your latest one, I've seen a noticeable difference in your demeanor and your focus. I've talked to your coach, Dennis Davis, about it. I haven't talked to you.
Yeah.
What's changed?
I just quit fucking myself over, Like, I was my own, worst enemy. One of my losses, I was winning the fight. I was doing the game plan. And, the whole time I just had in my head that I, sucked and I wasn't doing good and, that wasn't good and that wasn't good. And I really had to, reevaluate, how I was treating my own self. I was somebody that had a colorful childhood, didn't have the best, confidence growing up from outside sources. And it was something that I had to pick up those pieces, and I had to piece those together myself, and I think that's kind of what makes it even stronger. It's not, glue that anybody gave me, it's glue I made myself, and I pieced those together. I went home, I reconnected, I let go of things that I was holding on to that I didn't even know I was holding on to, and I really feel like that was able to translate over into the cage beautifully. And I think that's something that a lot of fighters do, and you just kind of get really hard on yourself. We're perfectionists. We're really, attention to detail, and when we notice we mess something up, but nobody else will notice we mess something up, it can kind of get in our heads. I actually noticed this working one night. I was waiting tables, and it was busy, crazy busy, and literally I was in my head, and I was like, oh my God, I forgot that. And I was all over the place, but literally all my tables had all their drinks, all the food came out, everyone was happy, everyone tipped me really good. And then I kind of went in the back, and I was punching something in, and I was like, why am I freaking out right now? I was like, nobody knows that I forgot their check back there. I just had to walk back there and get it, But it was those little things I was beating myself up for that didn't matter, and so I really was able to put all that to rest.
Maybe it was just the cannabis mess. I'm kidding.
No, I'm still smoking lots of that. Well, not right now because I got the fight, but.
No, but what's that process like? In other words, a lot of people are never successful in life at being able to navigate through those difficult times mentally. and accomplish their goals. What changed? Like, was there a person in your life? Did you go see someone, like a sports medicine psychologist or something like this?
I did do one sports session with somebody, and it was funny because it was a part where you like walk into a room and you like see yourself and like, who are you seeing? And it's like you see that little girl you are growing up. You don't see what you've become. And so I had to start looking at myself at who I've become, not what in my head what I used to be. And so then just realizing that like I moved here. I, had a job within the first 24 hours I was here. I've been training consistently for 5 years, and I just like realized like who I am is actually really awesome. And then going home, and I ended up finding my mom. We hadn't spoken years. She doesn't even know I'm in the UFC. I don't even think she knows what the UFC is. I don't think she's homeless, and she has a lot of problems. She's schizophrenic, she's bipolar, she's done meth my whole life, and she, I held on to like so much anger from her, like just for all the decisions she had made while I was growing up. And I left home really early. I left home at 15. I was, in and out of juvie. I lived out of a backpack. Like it was rough, and when I went home and I found her, and just seeing her crawl out of that tent, and like it was a big deal, and it was just like I was just able to like let go of it, and it breaks my heart like still like just thinking of her like that. And like I haven't talked to her since I like went home and like figured all that out, but it was just like I was able to like appreciate all of that instead of like hating the way I grew up. I was like, wow, like I survived that. And like I looked at myself like a character in a movie. I had to take myself completely out of that, and I looked at my life as a movie, and I looked at myself as a character, and I was like, how would I feel about that character? And then I was like, I would admire that character. I would think that character is amazing. I was like, she lived all that and she made it to the UFC. Like I was an amateur fighter. I was on a 3-fight losing streak. All my friends had titles and were big deals, and I'm the only one that made it here. Like I'm the one that stuck with it. I'm the one, after all those trials and all those errors, here I am. And I just had to learn to appreciate myself. And like when I did that, it was beautiful. The way I've been able to live my life day in and day out now, it's changed dramatically, and I think you guys are seeing that in the cage.
When was that you went home?
It was actually right after Robert Fallis died. He is from Oregon, where I'm from. We have a lot of mutual friends up there, and so I wanted to go to the memorial up there. And it was actually the day of the memorial. I had gotten word in the area that my mom was in. One of her high school friends growing up had seen her in that area and had gotten a hold of my family, who had told me, and then I spoke with him, and so I went and found her in that area. And it was just, I ended up not going to the funeral, and then I, did that, and then it was almost like he's still, like, all the things that Fallis was trying to help me realize, like, I found, even without, like, him there. Like, he brought me there, and I still found those things, even though he wasn't there. So it was kind of a really beautiful, like, conclusion in the whole thing. So it, it was about, a year and a half ago now.
Do you think, I guess you're kind of saying it, but do you think you'd be able to find this, if that hadn't happened, would you be able to find yourself and be able to find that kind of confidence at some point?
I don't know. That's a good question. I hope so. And I don't want to think that it was something like that, I don't want to think that my coach had to die for me to find those answers, I think that I would have eventually found them. I went into that fight with Jillian. He died shortly after, like a couple weeks after that. I went into that fight with Jillian really excited to perform, and I feel like that was a test. Like, they were like, okay, you think you got it figured out, but we're going to test you one more time to make sure you really want it. And I think, and I passed that test, and I think it played out. Things play out the way they should be. Jillian was supposed to be in the UFC. Jillian lost her a fight in the house. If she wouldn't have won that fight, she wouldn't be in the UFC. Jillian's supposed to be in the UFC. I'm supposed to be in the UFC. But I had that big submission over Christina Marks in the house. I did lose to Roxanne, and then they still saw that potential in me from that submission. I looked like amazing at tryouts. They were really impressed with me there. So they still saw that. And so Dana called me in the back after that loss with Jillian and was like, you have one more chance. We're giving you one chance. And I was like, make it or break it, Like, this was my time.
Hey, one more.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw you at the Contender Series week 1 the other day. How did you like that? Quite a
It's
Quite a production.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I think the new gym's beautiful. I was a little stressed out because Puna was fighting. So like me, him, and Dan have been in camp. Like we've had our last like 3 camps like all together. So you're in the gym a lot together, and so like just that environment. It was a big fight. You know, it's really personal. They kept it small, and I like that. They kept Contender Series the way I think it's supposed to be, and so I think Dana's doing a beautiful job with the show.
Yeah, well, you're used to seeing your teammates in there. We've seen Boston Salmon get into the UFC off
Yeah.
there. Who else? There's been a few others.
Yeah. Dan was on there. He didn't get the contract, but then Puna now got the contract. So I think, it's awesome. It's beautiful when you are working out with these guys and none of you are in the UFC, and then now we all are. When I got to the gym, Boston had just made his pro debut. Dan wasn't there. Puna wasn't there, and then here we are 5 years later and we're all making it. So it's like when you're with these guys day in and day out, and then finally our dreams are panning out, it's amazing, and like their wives and girlfriends move here with them, and so it's like for all that stuff to like pan out, and the sacrifices that their significant others give up, and to be here with them, it's like it's awesome. It's like it worked. You guys did it. It's exciting.
Yeah, and it's sort of the new route as opposed to Ultimate Fighter, which is the route that you went.
Yeah.
If you had to do all over, would you rather just do the one fight and try to get in the UFC, or the whole 6 weeks on the show?
The show is hard. It's very hard. But I have a few good memories from the show that would have never have happened if I was on Contender Series, So, and the relationships you get with those people in the house is it's like a war relationship almost, like you go through this hard thing together and like nobody else quite understands it but you guys. And so I think I would probably have wanted to go the Ultimate Fighter route again, even though it was super hard and I hated it when it was going on. Looking back now, I can appreciate it.
Seemed like you were pretty stressed out watching that fight. Is that difficult for you?
I was hoping no one saw me. I had to get up and go stand next to Eric. I was like, I got to pace. I was like, I cannot sit here. But yeah, it's hard. You're right there. You're looking at him. It's so close to you. And there was a few times like it's dangerous. Like when guys are going in there and swinging like that, and like there's so much right on the line. And so like it's not as scary if you were watching like smaller guys that are a little more athletic and like play the game a little bit more. But when you're watching, 2 big guys literally try and kill each other, it's a little bit more more intense, and Puna has 5 first-round knockouts, so you want to see him get that knockout, and he almost had it, and so, it was a lot. Yeah, it's way different when your teammates fight. You just get so much more worked up.
You mentioned your serving job a couple times. Are you still working?
I haven't worked for about like a month and a half now. The girls I was working for, they came back from maternity leave. I got yelled at by like an 11-year-old, and so I was like, I need some time. I was like, I am over this. I walked past his dad, and I guess I didn't say excuse me, and his dad's arm was like in a cast, and he like freaked out about it. And I was like, I was like, I didn't even know what to say. I was really... It was a rough shift that day. It was really rough. And so I was like, I need some time. I was like, I cannot. It reminded me of when I was working a lot and trying to train. Like it's hard. It's really hard trying to be a server and do this. And I've done it for over 10 years, and like people are hard. Like it's really difficult, So I'm glad I've had that break. Maybe when football starts up, I'll, pick up some shifts then. But I really want to do things that make me happy. And I was thinking, I'm like, serving does not make me happy. Like, even though I can go in and make a few $100s in a night, and like that's really beneficial, especially, at the early stages of my career. But it's still like, at what price is your happiness? So I was kind of like, next time a shift is offered to me and I want to take it, I was like, I'm going to say no and like work on my Spanish for the night or something, and like actually like pay myself and like try and like grow and not do something I hate for money.
Well, have you had somebody recognize you while you're serving?
No, like people there know that I fight. Right. So Eric, one of my head coaches, he's actually worked at 3 Angry Wives since he was like 20, I think, like forever. And so you guys all know. So like everyone knows that Eric's at the gym and a coach, and so then they all know I'm his girl. So like a lot of people already know. And then the crowd that comes in, they're like a lot of old people. They're not MMA fans, and then they're like Summerlin people, so they're like hoity-toity. So no one's ever like came in and been like, oh my God, Emily Whitmire. I've never really been recognized. I got recognized like once at an Apple store, and it was weird that I got recognized because Claudia was there. And I was like, Claudia Gadelia's here, and like you recognize me. I thought that was funny.